Hello, welcome to the Roseville Township Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission. Time is 7:30, and we'll call this meeting to order and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We need a roll call. We have everyone here. We do have something that I'd like to announce with Mr. Rinka to come up. We have a change in the actual roll call.
Hey, Brian and everyone on the board. Just obviously there's someone new in the seat that I'm typically at the liaison seat. So Wally Posiak is going to take over as the liaison to the Bicycle and Planning and Pedestrian Commission. I'm very excited to have Wally step in and take over my position in that. I think he's going to be a fantastic liaison for both for the Bicycle and Pedestrian Commission and also the board. Wally has a tremendous amount of experience on roads in DPS, and he will be fit very, very well with the dynamics of this board. So I appreciate Wally stepping in and taking the liaison position, and I look forward to continuing to work with all of you guys.
Wally, it's great to have you aboard. Congratulations on winning the election. As well as I can attest to what a great guy you are to work with. You've been a part of the bike path subcommittee in the past, as well as DPS, and you're also get some kudos for being my neighbor.
Sometimes that counts against you. The truth is that I'm happy to be back with bike paths. Maybe you don't know. I first got involved with bike paths with a former trustee by the name of John Neidhart. And John passed away 16 years ago, and I was part of the group that got the Memorial Bike Path System named in his honor. So I've been around bike paths a long time. I hope that I may be able to contribute in the future to the efforts, and it looks like you guys are rolling pretty fast, so I may have to work to keep up.
Great. So moving forward, do we have any additions or deletions to the agenda as presented tonight? Okay, so can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve it.
Second.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Does anyone have any comments on the meeting minutes prepared by Erin, which I think she did a great job?
Thanks, Brian.
No other comments? Great. So can we approve the meeting minutes as put in? Approve the meeting minutes?
Motion to approve them.
I'll second. Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, at this time, we will have our open public comment. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to make any public comment not related to anything on the agenda, this would be the time. Okay, moving forward, we'll maybe get an update on the BPAC assessment. Alan, could you fill us in?
Thank you, Brian. Today I spoke with Sarah Pink, and she is the Active Communities Coordinator for Michigan Fitness Foundation. She's a coordinator for the PAC program, the Participating in Active Communities program. I spoke to her about moving forward with a 2013 self-appraisal of the township. She stated that we can do it on hard copy, but their computers won't start accepting applications until the third week of January. She will notify me by email when that's open, so we can take it upon ourselves to maybe have a study session, start moving forward with what we need to do, and to set our short and long-term goals on that. So what I'd like to do is I would like to maybe have a study session sometime between now and January, when we can start actually submitting our self-evaluation.
Great. Now, refresh my memory. I believe we were talking that the last time that there was some capacity issues that we might be needing to get information from other township departments as well as commissions. And we were thinking about how do we get them involved, and we had made mention about possibly having get the board's opinion specifically on this and moving forward. Did we ever get that?
Eric, excuse me if I misunderstood you, but were we going to address this with the township board and get approval to move forward with this?
Yeah, I think the right way to do it is to get a resolution requesting that the township board support Groseville Township registering for the PAC, and then listing out kind of what it entails, both from a commitment side from the township and then also from a benefit side from the township. So I don't think it has to be too detailed, just basically what's it going to cost us and what are we going to get for it. In that way we can have a resolution that the township board approves or doesn't approve, and then that will be our authority or the bike path authority to move in with the pact and and answer all the questions, as well as getting the commitment from the managers and other commissions to get their assistance. So I think the right thing to do is for the Bicycle and Pedestrian Commission to create a resolution supporting the PAC and asking for the township board to do the same.
Okay, thank you.
We do have a quorum here tonight, so I'm thinking that we might be able to try and come up with that specific resolution. That way we can move forward with to the board, and that way we can still continue working on this maybe later on in December or early January. Eric, does that seem doable to you? Great. So, does anyone can anyone wordsmith our specific resolution here?
Before we do that, could I ask, when do we think we will be able to get on the agenda for the board? Which meeting?
Eric, or Wally?
I would think the first or second meeting in January.
Can I make a motion then to maybe have a study session before then to put together a presentation for the township? Then we will, the township board, and present it maybe at next month's meeting for approval.
Yeah, let's do that. But my one concern is that in December, I know that we're quite busy. And so if we're doing a study session and having a public meeting, I'm not sure if that will strain the resources of our volunteers here on the commission. If anyone thinks that might not be, does anyone have any conflicts?
I was thinking that maybe like we did for our statement of work, basically at the beginning, that we would have a subcommittee take this offline and bring it back to the next meeting we had for approval, just to streamline things.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that would be my recommendation, and then if that's okay with the rest of the groups, then I guess the question would be is who would volunteer to be that subcommittee?
Just logistically, the board will meet first part of December and Wally, and they won't meet again until first part of January. Do I have that right?
That's correct.
And you need how much lead time to get on the agenda?
About a week, typically.
Yeah, I would ask that we get on the January agenda even before we have the resolution in place, knowing that we'll have it in place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we can do that. Let's get on the January meeting specifically. My pens aren't working here. So, yeah, we will have that subcommittee, and I assume, Alan, that you'd like to be a part of the subcommittee?
Absolutely.
And do we have any other volunteers?
I can be part of the subcommittee.
Great. I think that should be good between the two of you.
I would think that if we do meet, it's not going to be an extensive meeting. It's going to really just set the guidelines for what we need to do. Then we can present it to the township and then go forward from there.
Excellent.
There is a little bit more I'd like to talk about with this, though. A lot of people wonder what the PAC program is. And I just want to touch a little bit on, there's 6 points to this. The benefits of promoting active community programs include recognition. The resulting board brings recognition to the community for achievements and removing barriers to make it easier for people to be active. The planning, personalized community report enhanced the community's planning process for describing strengths and potentials for improvement. It allows for partnerships, local leaders develop new partnerships and enhance existing partnerships as a result of working together to complete the assessment. It opens up awareness. Media announcements increase awareness among community residents about the community's vision and assets relating to active living. It touches on marketing. Communities use their award for another mechanism for promoting their community. And it allows for funding. Communities that understand their needs and assets are well positioned to be more competitive when applying for funding opportunities. So a lot of good things come out of this, and I think that as we grow with this PAC program, we'll be able to use it in many different areas.
Great. I think that's a very effective benchmarking tool that Grosse Ile can use specifically, pick and choose which parts we want to pursue ourselves, but it's a very good way to promote proper planning and make sure that we're being good stewards with the taxpayer dollars. So I'm excited to move forward with this, and I'm glad that the commission is all in favor with this as well. Is there anything else that you'd like to add as far as the PAC assessment?
No, we will update as we move forward and give information on where we're at in the process. So there'll be a lot more information on it in the future.
Great. Thank you so much.
One last thing before we move on to another subject. I would like to make sure that our liaison, Wally, takes back gets us on the agenda for January to the board.
Handled.
Great. Thank you, Wally. So our next item on the agenda is an update on the Horse Mill Shared Use Path, or bike path. For those of you at home, we've been pursuing this as part of the recommendation from the former bike path subcommittee. They had gone through and looked at various options for spending the bike path millage that we had, and we had concluded that Horse Mill was probably the best use of our limited township dollars. And so that would actually extend from Meridian, at least it was thought to extend from Meridian over to Park Lane. And Gary Bailey can give us an update on what's been going on with the bids and any other news.
As all of you are aware, I think the bids came in much higher than the engineering estimate. We have approximately $268,000 available. We also, thanks to the DPS Commission, we are able to use some funds from that commission for drainage features and some miscellaneous pavements, particularly at the intersection of Horse Mill and Park. That being said, there's still a shortfall. The project can't be funded at this point in time without some changes. Eric and I had a brief discussion. There will be another meeting with probably Ted, myself, Sahil from CE Rains, and Barry Sedlock, and anybody else that wants to attend, I assume, to discuss potential changes, deletions possibly, of the project to see how much we can finish with the monies available. The monies are fixed. There's a finite pot of money. We should, personally, I think this commission should get that statement every month. I don't know why we don't. But once that's done, we still hope to get something accomplished when the weather breaks in the spring. Eric, do you have anything to add?
No, I think you covered it very well. At the end of the day, right now we have funds. We know we can go from Horse Mill, along Horse Mill from Meridian to Canal. We're just investigating how to get the rest of the way from Canal to Park Lane. So I think we're pretty close, and I would expect that between Gary and if there's any other people for a subcommittee that you want to establish for that there can probably be a resolution at the next Bicycle Pedestrian Commission meeting stating what the project scope is and then requesting the Township Board to move forward with the project along with what funds would come from what aspects of the township.
Okay, question. We talked about moving into canal. Are you still focusing on moving into Parkland? Are you still heading for that? Or canal, that's it?
I guess the ultimate goal would optimistically go all the way to Park Lane, but when the bids came in, what do I want to say, percentage 30% over what the engineering estimate was, it put a crimp in our ability to do as much as we'd hoped to do. So now we're taking another look at it, and it may have to be scaled back. This is really the best I can tell you at the moment.
The trouble is, as Gary mentioned, the dollars are fixed because the millage was not renewed last August, I believe, or August of 2011, and so we have limited static funds which aren't accruing very much interest within the bank. Yet the construction costs are going up. So every time that we wait a little bit longer, we're actually having less money to spend on a project. And this project specifically was thought to be one of the easier projects to implement because we don't have to be. There's not a lot of property owners that we'd have to be looking at crossing driveways and moving bushes and things of that nature. So we thought we'd be able to move ahead with it, but again, we have to look at creative ways of getting the project done because we do need to spend the money, as well as look at ways that we might be able to still extend it to Park Lane. One of the things that I've been thinking about is that there's been a change within transportation funding. Last time I've told you guys about the transportation enhancements, which is through the federal government, the FHWA. With the new transportation bill is moved over to MAP 21 is the name of the transportation bill, and transportation enhancements has been combined with Safe Routes to School and several other projects to create the TAP, or Transportation Alternatives Program. Part of that is that the regional MPOs, SEMCOG, Southeast Michigan Council of Governments, actually has about $5 million now, and they are doing a call for projects right now, and it'll be closing mid-December, and they'll be coming up with a decision on what projects to fund for 2013 in January. So it's kind of a long shot, and unfortunately I don't feel comfortable myself with applying for that because I do work for Southeast Michigan Council of Governments. But if someone else on this commission, maybe Gary, since that you've been moving ahead with this, if you'd like to contact SEMCOG about the viability of the project, we might be able to find the funds to extend all the way to Park Lane.
Sure. You'll give me a point of contact after the meeting, though.
Sure.
Follow up.
Brian, you mentioned that we have to use the money. Is there a deadline that we have to use it, or will we lose it?
No, it's just that the residents had approved the money to be spent. So I think being stewards of the money, that we shouldn't just take the money and just sit on it, especially since we're not accruing additional revenue. It's not like it's growing and we're going to be able to fund a project in the future that we can't fund now. And we've already spent a lot of money on this project as far as the engineering costs, to basically get those preliminary bids. And I still think that we should move forward, but that's my opinion. If you guys want to talk a little bit more about this, has there been a change of heart as far as the horse mill project?
Well, I think the horse mill project was already reviewed from the previous group that had been meeting, the volunteers for the Bike Path Commission, and they were basically asked to find a way to utilize those funds the best of our abilities. The bike path from Meridian to Park Lane was overwhelmingly the choice of that group after they looked at about 20 different opportunities. And so I think that we've already spent, as you said, the engineering money, and by leaving that money in the bank account and with the interest rate we're drawing, we're actually doing a disservice to this community because we're getting less bang for our buck every day that we hold on to that money. So I think we should try to move forward with that. If we can only go to Canal, I say we go to Canal, and then look at extending that in the future from Canal to Park Lane.
Just like the sidewalk on Manchester, I was working on that map project. There's a sidewalk, nice sidewalk, and heading to East River. Sidewalk stopped. People are already used to it. They'll not as bike to Canal and then get on the road.
You
can all add on later.
Crosses East River?
Yeah, and this side, that was sidewalk. It's accessible, road for the wheelchair and blind people. That's it. So we can do the same thing on the horse mill.
Yeah, definitely. Is there any other opinions? I mean, I think that we're in agreement here, but if there's someone that differs from Rob's and my opinion, please say so now.
I support it.
Great. And if anyone that's watching at home, please, we'd love to hear from you. We'd like to hear your support, or as well as if you have some sort of creative ideas, we'd like to hear that as well. But I think moving forward, we're still going to continue with this project and see how we can creatively fund it all the way to Park Lane, or if not, figure out how we're going to do that in the future. So the next subject is about assessment of the entire island. I'll let Aaron get into the details of this, but the idea was that, again, we want to try and find a benchmarking to see what are the existing conditions out there for bicycle and pedestrian travel in the entire island. And the best way to do that, we thought, was to create specific little districts, and each of us accomplish one specific district. So Aaron, do you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. Everybody received the map that I had sketched out, and all had your areas. And in your packet for this week, I included just an example of how I organized my assessment. You don't have to do it this way. I'm sure when we meet and discuss it, we might find a best practice that everyone prefers, but this is just kind of how I did it. So I organized what I found by priority. So priority 1 were what I considered safety hazards. Priority 2 were things that are concerns, but not necessarily, I guess, don't necessarily need to be addressed immediately because they're a safety concern. And then the last one, I don't remember what I called it actually. Opportunities. So maybe nice to haves. So my thought is, and you don't have to take pictures. I did this when I thought that I wouldn't be able to make the next meeting, and so this would assist everybody else. But I took pictures and jotted a few notes, hoping that these could be discussion points. And so I do propose that we have a study session to kind of go through what everyone has found, and then we can prioritize together. And then it sounds like it might be challenging, but see if we can come up with funds for some of the highest priority projects, or as Brian mentioned, there are some grants available. Maybe we could apply for grants. But so this was really just an example of how I've done it. So if people weren't sure how to get started, but I do think that we should have a study session to go over this. I think this is too meaty to go over in this setting.
I completely agree with you on that one. But additionally, we wanted to do this because it's sort of the first steps in moving towards our goal of creating a non-motorized plan for the island. You always have to have your existing conditions surveyed, as well as if there's a way for us to publish this stuff online, we can start to get user-generated comments as well. So this is just sort of a little commercial for what's coming up. I'm excited about it. Thank you for such a great idea, Aaron. And we'll give you some more information in the future. So the next item on the agenda is a presentation. We're fortunate enough to have Anita Twardesky from Downriver Linked Greenways, They've been doing great things in all of southern Wayne County as well as northern Monroe County. And she's going to give us a little information about the history of the linked greenways and how it affects Grosse Ile.
Thank you. Here's some maps, and if you would kind of humor me and open them up and use them, mark them up, and just a couple. Kind of point of reference for you. Great. Well, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I co-chair the Downriver Link Greenways Initiative with Mary Bowling from Michigan's Sea Grant program. And I'm just going to go to next. Okay. A little bit about the Downriver Link Greenways Initiative. We started the initiative about 1998, and it was a result of the Downriver Summit, if anybody's familiar with those summits. And really what had happened is the DCC and the Chamber, Southern Wayne County Chamber, had gotten a group of folks together, and out of that came some initiatives, and one was the Downriver Link Greenways, and it was looking at how we can improve quality of life downriver. With that, several communities put together a master plan, and it looked at priorities, how we could get projects going. And since that plan started, we've done one update, and I can tell you we've put over $15 million worth of greenways projects in particularly the southern end of Wayne County, as Brian alluded to. The map that I have on here just kind of gives you a little overlay. I'm going to speak a lot from what's going on basically from Detroit down to Monroe. And then further on in my presentation, what I'd like to really give you is a flavor or a snapshot or a journey of what is available to your residents off the island. So, for example, there's some great things going on in Flat Rock, and we'll get into that in a few minutes. But anyhow, if you look at the dark blue lines, that is the water trails. There's a lot of work going along, as you know, hopefully know, the Detroit River, the Huron River, the Clinton River, the Rouge River. There's a huge initiative for water trails, and we are seeing a resurgence of water recreation. And it's been very, very good, and a lot of projects are happening. In addition to that, if you take a look at the thinner blue line, that's the International Wildlife Refuge, and as we all know, that's one of our very pride points in the downrivers. And we are now at over 5,000 acres, and when I take you on a little bit more of a journey, talk about some of the initiatives going on with that. And then the last piece is the yellow dotted line, and that shows where the potential is for greenways and how we can connect our waterways with the International Wildlife Refuge and really provide some top-notch, world-class recreation opportunities for our residents. International Wildlife Refuge. So what I'm going to do is kind of, again, take you on this journey as you leave the island and you're on West Jefferson. You're going to make a left and you're going to go to the International Wildlife Refuge. As everyone knows, there's a fishing dock going in. There's some interior trails that have been finished. And if you notice on West Jefferson, there's a trail that already goes there that takes you all the way down to the city of Gibraltar. And that was funded through some MDOT dollars, and that project was completed about 2 years ago. We are meeting next week with City of Trenton, the International Wildlife Refuge, Wayne County Parks, and hopefully a representative from Grosse Ile to discuss some next steps. The piece that goes from the International Wildlife Refuge to Trenton has been planned and designed, so there has been some work from the county. I've got plans in my office. So basically this group is going to say, okay, we're to the Wildlife Refuge, we're ready to go, let's look at some funding, how can we work together to get all of these all those pieces going. Potentially what they're looking at doing is coming to the sign and then either doing a road diet on West Jefferson or going down to the canal and back and then back up. So that's one of the things that we'll be looking at next week. And then if you go through the city of Gibraltar, again, kind of that journey, you head down South Gibraltar, and the city of Gibraltar has really done a lot of cool things. They are looking at putting in a kayak launch somewhere in their community, so they're very excited about that. You pass the Dairy Queen, Humbug Marina, and then you travel on South Gibraltar to the Lake Erie Metro Park, and that project was completed about 2 years ago. And then if you journey into Lake Erie Metro Park, they do not charge you if you come on your non-motorized, so you can get all the way down to the marina. And that project was completed about 5 years ago. And I can tell you that HCMA, the Huron-Clinton Metropolitan Authority, has been very, very supportive and very, very passionate about what we're doing here downriver. And they did that project kind of as a leap of faith 5 years ago and said, if we open up our doors to you, will you then get folks to us? And we said, by all means. So that was really one of the first pieces that was done on this lake, or this journey that I'm talking about. And they've been very, very pleased. So once you get into the park, there's all kinds of ways that you can travel. You can get down to the marina, you can go to the wave pool, you can go over to the nature center. Okay, the next piece is Carlson High School. You're still on a contiguous path. You haven't left the path yet, and Carlson High School has really done some, what I think, really groundbreaking work for downriver. Again, they were about 8 years ago put in the one piece, and they actually provided the land so that we could put the piece in. And then I'm not quite sure of my timeline, so I hope I'm correct, but about 3 years ago when they passed their bond issue for the improvement on their buildings, they actually provided some spurs. So when you go through Carlson High School, which is part of the overall plan, they now have spurs going to all of their athletic facilities. So as you can see here, this is one of them. And then they've also included this. If you go past where their baseball field is, they now have a little spur of path that goes in. So you can ride your bike in, walk in, and then get to all of your amenities. The next piece is you're going to travel down Woodruff Road, and then you can make a spur, go a little bit south into the city of Rockwood. Rockwood has done a lot of great work. Again, you're all in contiguous trails. You can get to the Huron River. They also created a spur down Old Fort. So that's still a lot of miles that you can accomplish and get to the river. This is their path, again, coming off of Old Fort. It's always amazing when I show these slides because, it's like, if you look at these pictures, we've got such beautiful, beautiful natural resources. We're really a hidden gem down here. And then you go into the city of Flat Rock, over the Woodruff Road Bridge. The other thing I always like to give kudos to is MDOT. When this was one of the first projects when we talked about getting over. When the Flat Rock piece actually started, the MDOT piece of it was the first piece done. And I always promised them that I would tell them that because a lot of times you hear about MDOT projects and they're always either behind or there's a challenge. But this project was actually one of the first pieces and they completed it actually ahead of schedule. This is past the Flat Rock Community Center. There's boardwalks, beautiful kiosks. You see a lot of deer back here. And this is following the I-75 corridor, the ITC. Then you go past the Flat Rock Civic Center, so you've got all those recreation opportunities, the ball fields. The city also with some of their, I believe it was their DDA money, but I'm not sure, created spur within that park, so you can go to the ice rink, you can go to the library, all on contiguous path. Next then, you're going to travel to Flat Rock to Huron Park. Which is an island that was actually developed by Henry Ford. It's a little bit of history. He actually created that island to create energy, and it's really a show place. There's a lot of fishing, steelhead that goes on there. And then the last piece, if you kind of take a look at your map, is those three little white dots in Flat Rock, if you see. And that project has been funded, and we're letting the bid out in January. So as soon as the construction tells us it's ready to go, we will then be connected completely to Lower Huron, Willow, and Metro Park. Lower Huron, Oakwood, and Willow Metro Park. And that, again, HCMA, I believe was about 5 years ago, connected all those parks. You can stay in one, and they did that in preparation for all of this activity that we would be able to be contiguous. In addition to that, if you follow through the metro parks and up to 275, as you know, hopefully the I-275 is doing a renovation, particularly up in the northern communities. At the last non-motorized committee meeting for MDOT, they are looking at potentially doing some remedial work on the southern end because there's actually a white gate that the Metro Parks put in probably 20 years ago, anticipating some traffic coming off of I-275, non-motorized traffic. So we went to them and said, well, it's time to maybe open the gate, and so they are looking to do that, and we anticipate that that's really going to become a reality. They're looking at they've got some funding now, and they're looking to have some funding. So, in all reality, from I-94 all the way up to the International Wildlife Refuge, we will have in about a year and a half contiguous, funded, in-the-ground, non-motorized plans, and it's pretty exciting. And part of the Downriver Link Greenways, we are now looking to then head north, starting to work with Trenton and the city of Wyandotte and travel north. A little bit about what we do. We have, as I indicated to you, on the master plan, we also have our marketing brochures. In addition to that, we do have a website, so if any resident would like to take a look at it, it's downrivergreenways.org. Has all our information on there, everything about our water trails, and all of the projects, and all the reports, all of the media, press releases, and those sorts of things. Okay, does anybody have any questions or comments, or?
Yeah, I have a few. I wrote it down. The wildlife refuge.
Yes.
We biked over there, the road, we turned off, we bike on the road. Are you planning on building the trail to connect the refuge to Parkline? Is that?
Do you mean to Elizabeth Park?
No, to wildlife refuge.
Yes, it will move from the West Jefferson Wildlife Refuge to Elizabeth Park. Is that what you want?
Okay, good.
Yeah, Elizabeth Park, International Wildlife Refuge where it stopped. And then quite frankly, when the visitor center becomes a reality, there will be trails within there that you'll be able to ride. Right now, the trails that are in the wildlife refuge are not for bicycles. Those are, white hiking trails. So in essence, if you can kind of picture, you'll have the West Jefferson piece. You'll be able to get into the visitor center, park your bike, utilize the walking trails, get back on your bike, and then come to Elizabeth Park.
I'm at the bike trail.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's going to go from...
That's the plan.
Yes,
That's the goal.
yes,
Good.
yes, yes. And quite frankly, we've had some design work done on that already. So I've got all those pretty things that engineers love.
Good, I like that. Now, the 4th Street, I don't know if it's related to the 4th Street, they just renovated it. I've been driving, hoping to see Cheryl. Is there any plan for Cheryl?
We're hoping. I'm not really 100% sure on that piece. I can tell you that there's been some conversation about the bridge that's going over, the 4th Street Bridge over I-75 has been a lot of discussion. I don't think there's any really plans underway that I'm aware of. Brian, you might be able to.
I attend the MDOT non-motorized meetings as well as Anita, so we've known each other for a long time over here. But there is at least been talk about Sharrow specifically on 4th Street in southwestern Detroit, as well as connecting that into the downriver communities such as Lincoln Park. The trouble is that Sharrow specifically require that the posted speed as well as observed speed to be lower than 35 miles an hour. So where we start to run into a little bit of trouble is once you get past Eureka Road on 4th Street, that the speed limits go up to 40, then 45, then 50. So we probably won't be seeing specifically Sharrows that far south. I don't know about how far the status is with the current construction on 4th Street from essentially Goddard to Sibley and what's going to be on there, but we're still hoping for something.
What about sidewalk? I know that they're building sidewalk. Can we use the sidewalk to bike on?
The sidewalk where?
4th Street.
On 4th Street?
Yeah, they're building new sidewalks. I wonder, are we allowed to use the sidewalk?
Unless there's a specific law from the local community restricting you from riding your bike on the sidewalk, you are allowed to. I would caution against it for many adults because of sight distance issues, especially on 4th Street in Wyandotte and farther north. You have the buildings that come all the way up to the sidewalk, essentially. And there's a lot of blind spots, and sidewalks in general create a lot of blind spots. So if you're on a facility that's specifically made for pedestrians traveling at 3.5 miles per hour, and you're on a bike and you're an adult and you're going, 10, 15, even a lot of us can go 20 miles an hour, automobile drivers are not going to be expecting that, especially if you're riding against the grain of traffic, because they're looking out into the street. So, that's a long-winded answer. I'd say, yes, you're allowed to, but I would caution you to ride slowly and, be aware of your surroundings.
Okay, and one more thing. You mentioned Flat Rock. It's about a old depot, senior citizen complex. Are you conducting the Flat Rock?
Yes, that's the piece, the trail is already there, that's a major trailhead. And when I refer to going from Oakwood, Willow, and Lower Huron, that's where you would access that.
Yeah, you guys been talking about it someday.
It's someday, I know. We're supposed to let the bid in January. It's signed, sealed, and delivered. So unless we have the same challenge, as we all know, see how the bids come in. So but we're open to put a shovel in the ground. Everything's done, and that project was about, just to kind of give you a little glimmer of hope, took probably about 15 years. So, but we're here. It's done. So, hopefully, we're very excited. So, I do have some additional things just to kind of to end to let you know that how the Downriver Link Greenways work is, as I indicated, my co-chair Mary is with Michigan Sea Grant. I work for Riverside Kayak Connection, and we have a public-private partnership. So our time is available to you. That's what I'm community outreach, and that's what Riverside Kayak supports. So if you need any additional resources, anything that we can help you with, any grant writing, if you need letters of support, we can provide all that. In addition to that, I just wanted to kind of give you a plug. There's some great things happening on the state. One being, I don't know if you've been following the governor's Blue Ribbon Outdoor Recreation Panel. He just did a big announcement about a week ago, and one of his priorities that came out of that work that the Blue Panel did, they actually created a Blue Ribbon Panel, and their job was to really make a recommendation to the governor on how we can move recreation forward, not only for state parks, but for the state. And I'm very proud to report that trails and water trails was high on the priority. So I really encourage you to go on the Michigan website and read his announcement. In addition to that, there's going to be some changes with recreation master plans. So please, as you're going through your process, work strongly with your and kind of keep an eye on that, because they are because of some of these changes that this panel is recommending. There's also going to be some master plan changes. So please keep that in mind. And then the last piece is through the Michigan Recreation and Parks Association, there's going to be a trail summit in Lansing, February 23rd. And part of that discussion, it's going to be a day-long summit, and we're going to be looking at sense of place. Kalamazoo, the Calhaven Trail, did a wonderful survey, and they're going to be talking about the results. And the idea is, so you've surveyed your community, now what do we do with the results? So we would really like to invite you to that. In addition to that, I know you had mentioned a little bit earlier about the conversation about the transportation bill. We're actually going to have some folks that are going to be talking about that, really giving some insight, and it's really meant for groups such as yours to come, and so I will make sure that you get invitation to that. So any other questions? And I really appreciate your time, and kudos for everything that you're doing for your community in the arena of non-motorized. And I can tell you, I've been doing this for probably about 20 years now, and this is probably the most momentum I've seen. This is really, communities that are like yours that are saying, putting together commissions and looking at funding sources. There's I think you're going to see a lot of things break loose. So I encourage you to get ready and move forward. So thank you.
Do we have any other questions for Nita? Wally, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I know she's been working on them. She was working on them when I was working on them. And I'm really glad to be back. You'll
Yes,
see a lot of
yes, great, thank you.
Alan, do you have anything?
I just want to thank you for coming tonight. Your information is just going to us.
Good.
Aaron?
Thank you.
I actually moved here not that long ago, but I started out in Brownstown, and I stumbled upon a lot of the trails whenever I was training for the marathon, and I was pleasantly surprised. So thank you for all your
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Robb?
I just want to reiterate Alan's thank you for coming tonight and sharing all this wonderful information with us. It's very exciting, and I hope the residents of our community who are watching tonight or will see this on replay will also be excited and energized by what you've shared with us and help us drive this forward. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Gary.
I appreciate you coming too. I've been on the bike trail all the way to the community center with some other folks in my neighborhood that have used it, and you know, it's great. I mean, the more involvement, the more people that become aware, I think this thing will just kind of momentum builds.
Right.
So thank you.
You're welcome. And then I was just thinking too, just one last comment is if you ever want a mobile workshop, when the weather gets a little warm, we will get you on bikes and give you a tour.
Great.
Thank you.
Is there any comments or questions from the audience? Eric, I know you're out there. Is there anything you'd like to add? No? Great. I'm just going to add my little comments here and say that I am super excited, and thank you again for coming out. I know it's been a long day for you here. But I just want to reiterate how many different gems and different things we got going on downriver between the wildlife refuge and between what's going on in Flat Rock, between the town centers in Gibraltar and Trenton and Wyandotte. I know that there's so many people out there that frequent these areas, as well as people that have businesses, and it's about creating more choices for us and increasing our quality of life. And I just think it's going to be amazing that if we work together with Trenton, who specifically wants this connector to happen, and they're our closest neighbor, and we can do this. We're going to be connected to all that. We're going to be connected to the metro parks, and beyond the metro parks, with the I-275 renovation, you're going to be able to go into Oakland County. You're going to be able to get up on Grand River and get up into M5 corridor. You'll be able to eventually get up into all the systems within Oakland County, as well as you can go over to Macomb. You're going to be able to go over to St. Clair County. There's the airline trail that's going to be going completely across the state. So, I mean, the possibilities are endless. And additionally, the momentum for things happening right in our corridor with this north-south connector, because the Downriver Linked Greenways has had this vision for a while. Communities are on board. Recently, there's the Underground Railroad Tourism Trail that's going from Mobile, Alabama, all the way up to the city of Detroit, as well as we have the U.S. Bike Route System that is basically, they're trying to connect Toledo up to the Detroit area. So there's a lot of things going on. We've got our initiatives, we've got Trenton's initiatives, we've got Downriver Linked Greenways, we've got MDOT, we've got Michigan Trails and Greenways Alliance, and now we also have the SEMCOG and MDOT creating a non-motorized plan for the entire southeast Michigan area. And so, I mean, this is just the right time to be working, and I can't say how excited I am, as well as I know that our elected officials are on board with this too. So, again, I'll put in the plug again that we're having this meeting with the City of Trenton, with Downriver Linked Greenways, as well as Wayne County on December 6th. So, I plan to go there at least as a SEMCOG representative. If any of you want to come along, I encourage you to do so, any of the elected officials, as well as, to the public. If you guys are interested, shoot me an email, and then I'll get you in touch with Anita specifically. So, thank you once again, and have a great night.
Brian, for those that are maybe watching on TV, why don't you mention the date, time, and location of that meeting on the 6th so that they would be able to write that down and participate?
Anita, would you like to?
Yes, it's going to be December 6th, 10 o'clock at the Trenton Marina offices, right here.
Thank you.
Yep. In the morning? 10 a.m. 10 a.m. December 6th.
Thank you.
Great.
Hopefully those out there in the audience or those at home will jot that down and we'll get some participation.
Mm-hmm. If not, if you couldn't hear it, just shoot us an email or give a call to anyone at the township, and we'll be able to answer and get you that date specifically and the time. So moving forward, we have our miscellaneous issues that we call the park bench. These are things that have been brought up in past meetings that we might have a little bit of updates on, we might not. So I'll go down the list and see if we have anything to cover specifically tonight. There's been talk in the past about fountain locations, and Gary had brought that up. Gary, do you have anything that you'd like to add today?
No, Barry and I have got to get back together on this, but I think ultimately we're going to need some kind of recommendation from this committee to someone, and I guess I will defer to Wally on that, to say, you know, let's build them here, kind of thing. But we talked about putting them on the southern end of the bike path, so certainly by Meridian School and maybe one by Township Hall.
And we currently have the funds for those? From
As I understand it, the funds were donated by two separate groups. I don't know who or whom, and Dale Reed may have the best clue on
The two
that.
fountains?
Sir?
Are you referring to the donations for the two fountains?
Yes, sir. Are you aware of that?
Yes, one was put in memory of Steve Sims and the group
That one's,
donated.
that's existing.
Oh, I thought you were asking about.
No, two new funds.
No, not aware of the new ones.
Great. So, I mean, especially since that is, based on donations, I think that that should be something that we at least start to act on soon, so that way, we show, our excitement about, having those funds, and then, appreciate the generosity of the philanthropers. So maybe we can talk about that in our upcoming study session. Mile markers. Gary, you have this one as well as I did a little bit of research in the past. Do you have anything that you want to add on that?
No, I do not. We had talked about getting the Boy Scouts involved. Am I correct on that? You?
We are. If I can just work on that. We are discussing it with the Trenton Troop. There are several boys working on their Eagle Scout projects, and they're looking for worthy causes, and I can't think of a better one right now. My son in particular showed interest in it, so we will put that out to the Boy Scouts, and we'll report back next month to see if any will commit to the mile marker program for their Eagle Scout project.
And the last three items on this list were brought up by Aaron. So do you have anything that you wanted to add about sight distance issues or the blog or bike racks?
The sight distance issues, I think, will probably be encompassed whenever we talk about the audits, because I'm sure there are a lot more than the few that I had mentioned. Nothing to report on the blog, and the bike rack location decisions, Gary and I have been bouncing a few emails back and forth, but I don't know if we have anything to report yet. So.
Okay.
Can I, just to follow up on that? And maybe Eric or Wally, somebody knows, which department has control of the building and the grounds? Barry said it's not DPS.
Which building?
This one.
That's a good question.
Thank you.
Dale probably oversees the building, yes.
I mean, if we wanted to recommend placing a bike rack in or around the grounds here, in or around the public safety building, in or around, I mean, Mr. Rooney may be in charge of the community center. What?
It may be airport.
Well, that could be. But Aaron and I would like to talk to somebody before we push this. We're not talking about a lot of money here either. But it just seems like if we're asking the community to get behind this, the least the township could do would be to, have some bike racks here.
Yeah, so we'll make sure that we get some answers specifically on that one, as well as we want to encourage anyone watching this live or on the archive that if you know of some specific locations that you'd like to see a bike rack, let us know. And I think that we'll also be looking for these opportunities when we're each doing our little assessment of part of the island. Is there anything else that someone would like to bring up, something that's not in this part of the park bench that maybe should be?
Well, Gary, you mentioned that they're not very expensive. What is the range for a bike rack?
$200 to $1,000 installed. If you get them uninstalled, I've got a catalog that I got from Mr. Sedlock, $400 or $500 for the kind that you see sometimes in front of Kroger, depending if as we talked before, if you can find it. But
So that might be something we could do with fundraisers or whatever, if we don't have the funds to do, just maybe some kind of a fundraiser or something to do to kick that off.
Yeah. The other idea is that there's a growing movement of people that are doing art pieces that double as bike racks. So I mean, I know in the city of Detroit they're actually taking like old bikes and soldering them together and creating different types of bike racks that are safe and secure. Some of those are done specifically on donations, and other times they're being bought, but they run similar to the cost for manufactured bike racks as well. So if there's anyone at home that's kind of handy and artistic and thinks that they might want to do something like that, hey, we'd like to talk to you. Anything else for the park bench?
Now, with the bike rack, you were talking about financially. Is the community going to be responsible for fundraising, or should we encourage businesses to install it for their customers?
I think it depends on the location. I think there's a need for bike racks at public buildings, in which case, it's not a business, but I think some businesses could probably benefit too, but I think that would be up to them. But I agree, maybe we should encourage them to do so, and maybe even provide, if we get a few in at some township buildings, maybe we can provide an avenue that they can use to purchase bike racks.
Mm-hmm. One thing specifically I'd like to look at that other communities have been doing is a part of site plan review. So this actually goes towards the Planning Commission specifically, is if you have a zoning ordinance standard for parking in general, that there might be a creative way of putting in bike racks as part of new development. Because at the time of new development, the costs for a bike rack are almost insignificant to the cost of the specific project. And there's a variety of different ways to require the bike parking. We could, maybe if the Planning Commission is specifically interested in looking at that, we can look at what ways would benefit the community as well as not be a burden specifically to people that are willing to invest the money and put in a business within our lovely community. Anything else? Great. The last item that we have over here is the chairperson's report. Actually, I've touched on all three of these already today, so I'm going to be very quick. But as mentioned before, there is the Transportation Alternatives Program that is being put on by SEMCOG. So the actual funding for this year is $5 million for fiscal year 2013, as well as there will be $5 million for fiscal year 2014. And the applications are due on December 14th of 2012, specifically for the fiscal year 2013. The eligible applicants are Act 51 agencies, incorporated cities, villages, road commissions, transit agencies. So, we might be able to apply for this, especially if we're teaming up with Wayne County, because it's Wayne County's road for the Horse Mill project. The contact for that is Steve Brzezinski from SEMCOG, and I will put a link to the actual notice from SEMCOG on our website. The second item that I wanted to talk about, again, was the Downriver Linked Greenways meeting with Trenton and Grozio, which will be happening December 6th at 10 a.m. at the marina at Elizabeth Park. Again, I encourage any of us, any of the elected officials, as well as any of the public that are interested to, come on out, or contact me if you have something that you'd like me to relay to that specific meeting. And finally, again, there is the upcoming SEMCOG Regional Transportation Plan (RTP), which is a 25-year plan that's basically for all of Southeast Michigan and how we're going to be spending our dollars. There was a recent YouTube video on bicycle and pedestrian travel, as well as there's a survey. So I'm going to provide a link specifically to that, as well as we're going to be moving ahead with the non-motorized plan. So that's going to involve all 7 counties, MDOT, as well as the larger stakeholders like the Downriver Linked Greenways. And there's going to be a consultant actually going around and asking about what are the specific planned facilities, existing facilities, as well as desires for people to travel by bicycle or walking within Southeast Michigan. So it'll be an opportunity for us to add information as far as how we connect to the island, to downriver, as well as specifically on the island. If you have any questions about that, you can contact myself at my actual SEMCOG address, and that's Pawlik, P-A-W-L-I-K, at semcog.org. So with that, is there anything else that anyone would like to talk about this evening before we close?
Just, I'd like to make a short mention. A few weeks ago, Charlie Raines died. I've known Charlie personally and professionally for over 30 years. He founded C.E. Raines Company, as I think most of you are aware. He was a great civil engineer, and I'm sorry to hear of his passing.
My condolences to the Raines family.
Yeah. You were talking about maybe have a meeting for January with another committee, right? When are we going to find out when that day is?
January with another committee? Which committee are you talking about?
Yeah, you were talking about PAC. When would that meeting be?
Oh, that was going to be Aaron and Alan. They're just going to get together and basically create the resolution that we are recommending to the board, and so that way at our next official meeting we can approve that. Make our recommendation.
And I don't have to worry about just a regular meeting in January, right?
Yeah, at this time, unless we might do a study session. We would have to figure out specifically when we want to do that. If that will be January, if we'll do maybe a study session and a meeting, or maybe we'll move the study session to another time. But more information will be coming on that as soon as available.
Okay.
Just for the sake of information, that first township board meeting is January 14th. I've already sent an email requesting you get on the agenda.
Thank you so much. All right. Rob.
I would just like to make sure that we address a couple things. First of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Rankin for his service to this commission and the previous commission of helping with the bike paths. I know it's been a long haul, and we appreciate your work effort, and we know that you're going to continue to serve on the board and move forward with other commissions and committees, but we want to thank you for your work here. Secondly, I'd like to ask that Wally provide us contact information so that we can contact him. We created that contact list at our first meeting as one of our byproducts and deliverables, and with him joining the board, or our group, we need his information, so we could get that out to the group here.
Easily done.
All right, thank you.
I'll add on to your comments that I thank Eric for his service as well. It's been great working with you, and appreciate you getting behind us and creating this commission, and we hope you do great things specifically on the board. Great. With that, can we get a motion to close?
So moved.
Can I get a second? Great. With that, I will come to a close this evening. Thank you, everyone. Drive, walk, or bike safe.